Another live stream, and today we will mostly check on the seedlings that I have beside me. I want to go through all of them, and after that maybe we will start cleaning seeds, because I had a lot of seeds that I harvested in the last year, like in the current season. I still haven't cleaned it all, and I want to start to get through it. So we will start cleaning seeds on the live stream too. That is the kind of stuff where I feel like the live stream could be great. So yeah, let's start checking on the seedling containers and all that stuff. So yeah, let me see how that light goes here. Okay. So I brought a few seedlings that I wanted to check on. Like I said, it's great to check on the seedlings all the time. Ideally, you check on them on a daily basis, but I know that that's unlikely, like has no connection to real life. But of course, as often as possible is great. So yeah, let's see what we have here. Some of them are a little bit younger, some of them are older. And yeah, later today, when we're done checking the seedlings, we will just start cleaning seeds. That is something where I felt like that I really want to do online when we're streaming, because it saves a lot of time for me. So I don't have to stream and clean the seeds. So we're doing it live. But yeah, let's check on the seedlings a little bit. Good morning to everyone who joins us. Thank you for being here. And yeah, container of seedlings, everything looks good in here. But one thing that I noticed is that there were like fungus gnats in some of the containers, and that is an alarm sign that the soil might have already been contaminated before it was even opened up. Yeah, that's a problem. Pasteurization can save you that hassle. Just putting boiled water on the soil when you before you use it. But in my case, I mean, I like to have the soil pretty much alive when I'm sowing out. I'm not using highly organic soil, but still a little bit of life in the soil can be good. A little bit of like a natural medium, like the soil in nature would be. That isn't a bad thing generally, but of course it can become a problem when you have something like fungus gnats or mealybug inside the seedling container. That's a problem. So yeah, check out fresh seedlings, fresh start. Everything looking great. I mean, the plant lamp has an amazing effect on the seedlings. They are growing and growing, so that is great. And yeah, let me show you more cactus seedlings here. All right, and if you have general questions, I'm happy to take them. Problems along the way sowing out what we're doing here, feel free to ask. But yeah, in this container, I do not see any problems. Don't see any fungus gnats, so that's great. Let's move on to the next. Seedlings are maybe 10 days old, roughly. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to the next one. Also very young seedlings, just maybe a week, 7 to 10 days. But looking healthy, looking great. Everything in order. And there's no fungus gnats coming out of the bag when I open it, which is also great. Yeah, that's good. Hey guys, good morning. What type of seedlings those are? There are different kind of flower hybrids. A lot by Uwe Kahle, but also by myself. Some with Lobivia, but some Trichocereus hybrids that involve all kinds of different parents to have like the best possible flower. These have already, like the parents have already been used for generations, like just trying to breed the best kind of flower. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm sowing out. Mostly trying to see stuff that I have like created my own crosses, but also I'm a big fan of Uwe Kahle's work. He's a great breeder, one of the greatest breeders that currently breed. So yeah, I'm always sowing out. And we're doing it on the channel too. I just enjoy sowing out. It's something that have always been with me in my life. That kind of sowing out thing in winter. As a cactus breeder, when the winter time comes, there's not a lot you can do, and sowing out gives you a job, something to be present here, and it's fun. You just sprinkle the seeds on the soil, and a few months later you have you have plants. It's like you created life in a way, and that gives you a great feeling. That makes you feel better about yourself if you're depressed. Just seeing something grow in front of your eyes that you created, that you brought into this world, that is something that I love. And it doesn't even matter what I sell out, as long as I do it, makes me feel better. I'm always looking forward to it, Yeah, I'm not sure how to like streams, but thank you for doing it, And yeah, I mean, I collect, what do I collect? All kinds of cacti, but mostly multi-hybrids now. Stuff that's flowering a little bit earlier than the columnar plants that we have, because they need to be like 2 meters tall until they finally start flowering. And that's the point when I always have to trim them back because they have reached the roof of the greenhouse. So yeah, but I also like to grow the columnar cacti like I always did. They are the perfect example for a cactus, how I imagine a cactus should look like. So yeah, I will always grow some of those too. But these days I just like the flower, the variability that you see in the flowers of Lubivia. It's a great genus with a lot of interesting colors that we do not have in Trichocereus. So I try to combine them a little bit. I love Born to be Wild, that kind of stuff. That's a great hybrid, great flower. And there's so much progress in Lubivia breeding too. The flowers get bigger and bigger. They are still smaller than Trichocereus flowers, but we're working on it. So yeah. Any tips to get them past germination? I mean, if you like past germination in the sense when you induce the germination, I always try to produce a lot of heat right away to get them out, to get them healthy, trying to meet the right temperature range right away in the beginning, and then they are coming up healthily, and then I put them under my lamp. I have a somewhat, that's not a super great plant lamp that I have. It's just a classic, plant that is used for other plants. I don't want to, further elaborate, but it works for cactus seedlings too. Like the wattage is something like 100 watt, and it is just great for the cacti because they start growing fast. They produce the first set of spines very fast, and that helps to get them big. Keep them in a closed bag, because in the beginning they just need a lot of humidity. Since I started using the more organic sowing soil, the seedlings grow faster. They are through the difficult time faster. So I recommend doing something like that. Using just the basic sowing soil can already help. And I mean, the more often you fertilize them early on, the faster they grow too. So, but you need to do it in a very diluted concentration, because otherwise they would just melt away. So start fertilizing them maybe every 2-3 weeks, and that already helps to get them through the very dangerous first months. I guess the risk of losing them is the biggest in the first months, and then afterwards you are at risk of losing touch with them, like when you put them somewhere and are not connected with it. You don't look, you forget about it, you walk around in the collection, do other stuff, and 3 months later you realize, oh, you lost half the seedlings. You're staying focused on them, making sure you do not forget where they are. And in the first 6 months under the lamp, that is okay. Once they are bigger, then you can start slowly like getting them used to the environment outside, hardening them up, and then fertilizing them like larger plants. What at the moment you put them out, you say, okay, they are big enough. You start treating them like adult plants and give them a lot of push, a lot of water, a lot of nutrients in spring. Early spring is the time when I do a lot of watering, and it also goes to the seedlings, and they grow faster, they get bigger, and you can get them through the phase where you often lose them. So yeah, and long term, I mean, regular watering, regular fertilizing. A lot of people don't fertilize as often as they should. I mean, you read the recommendations on the label, but a lot of people don't do it the way it's on the label. Cacti need a lot of water in summer, from between spring to summer, up until autumn even. I water a lot. And when you do that and have a good fertilizer, they just grow very fast. I have I have good growth rates in the greenhouse, and it's because they get a lot of water, they get a lot of nutrients, and yeah, that you can do that and increase the speed of growth, the time it takes for them to grow. You can speed up things a lot, and yeah, getting them to flower maybe a year earlier. All this stuff, just basic stuff, basically giving them sunlight, just to ensure a basic environment where they can thrive. And if something is missing, you need to work on that, because you can sow out 1,000,000 seedlings, but if the environment isn't right, you will just waste them. It happened to me. I've had so many great seeds that I just wasted, because at that time I wasn't at that point yet where I had a greenhouse where I could put them, like to harden them up, put them on the shelf where they get sunlight. But you cannot put them outdoors at that point, because slugs and the constant, like all the animals out there, they will just damage them, and one little injury and rain and you will lose it. It will turn into fungal infection because it's outdoors too fast. When you have a bigger plant, it's not a problem, or it's less of a problem. But for little seedlings, you just have to be able to guarantee that you can keep them safe, and that is not easy. So you either grow them indoors for a very long time, or you just get a greenhouse, or have to build a structure if it's a garden bed, something where you can protect them. So that's my recommendation for the seedlings. Someone mentioning orchid soil, no, orchid fertilizer. Yeah, I've heard people use that too. Can work. All kinds of commercial fertilizers can work. It is sometimes, I've heard people have great results with tomato fertilizer. Sometimes people just sometimes there's just all kinds of brands out there, and they could be great for cacti too, even if it's not written on the label. Personally, my fertilizer is low in nitrogen, higher in P and K, and yeah, that kind of stuff produces more growth, but a healthy growth, like cell growth. If you use nitrogen, you bloat them up, you get them to grow faster and faster, and it goes at the cost of having healthier plants. So higher fertilizer that's a little bit higher in P and K can make a lot of sense too, also for flowering. Yeah, someone mentioning they fertilize a little bit with every watering. I've heard that is what a lot of botanical gardens do. They only fertilize a little bit, often a lot lower than the recommended dosage, but they do it more often. That can work. I mean, of course, you still need to make sure that in the end there's enough nutrients in the soil, but I'm sure if you fertilize more often, it will even itself out, you know. So yeah, so someone writing they never had a potted cactus flower. That's a problem that I had a lot when I was moving plants into the house to overwinter them inside. I feel like it really helps a lot to have a place where a plant can stay stationary and experience the seasons between like early spring, you know, summer, then autumn and winter. This natural cycle of light and humidity and temperatures just helps with the flowering. But I also know breeders that move all their plants into the cellar, move them out very early in maybe in March, and they still flower. But what they do is they put them in these garden beds, well made garden beds that are like mini greenhouses, you know, and they bring them out early in March already when there's still frost. That doesn't matter because they're a little bit protected in these garden beds, and there they push them hard like they are like in a greenhouse, like I do when I start watering in March in the greenhouses, and they just push them hard. I mean, that little bit of cold experience that they get in March around that time when they already bring them out early, that kind of helps them to remind them that flowering is important for survival. And when you have a plant that is inside in a warm place all year round, there's no reason for the plant to procreate, you know. Flowering is also has to do with ensuring survival, ensuring long-term survival, and I guess just reminding them with the temperature, with the lower temperature and the conditions that are a little bit harder, it can help to induce flowering. And also fertilizer, you know, all stuff like that, you know. Maybe the fertilizer is missing. You always, when the way I water and I fertilize, I do it regularly, starting early spring already. And I can only do that because I have them in the greenhouse. Because if I had them outside early spring, I wouldn't be able to water them. They would just freeze because it's still at that point outside. It's still raining and being cold too much. So the combination of rain and cold weather is too much. But if you have them under a roof, you can do that. You know, you can sometimes let them dry. So yeah, someone asking a question about the TPM Zelly. If I only had one flower, that thing flowered this year for the first time, and I'm sure, and I believe it was one or two flowers. It's possible I've seen a second flower from the same plant, but I'm not sure. Could be just the one flower. But if I remember correctly, the plant had another flower flush a little bit later. I filmed it, so maybe I will need to go back and look. But yeah, one or two flowers only. And it was the first that flowered from that batch. So I'm looking forward seeing the others. But all the crests, they have had terrible bad luck with mealybug. I've been treating them, I've been spraying them. We started spraying them last year on the channel, or like at the beginning of the season. And I just find that crests and mealybug, they just don't go well together. It is very hard to get rid of them once you have it and on a crest. So I'm not sure if I see many of the crested flowers. I grafted the reverts, and the reverts were flowering nicely, very fast. I guess I'm just not really, you know, in order to keep the crests the way, like for breeding and all, I would really have to spray them on a regular basis against mealybug with a real pesticide. And very often, you know, I always feel bad about all the life that is around the plants. You know, when you spray something, you are also spraying the surroundings, and the pesticide soaks into the soil. It affects so many insects that are living around the greenhouse. So I always try to minimize when I spray, not spray the whole collection, spray single plants that are affected, and it is very hard to get rid of them completely in the whole collection, you know. So I don't know. The TPM cross had a huge problem with mealybug, and it's probably the one cross that attacked it the most. I guess normal seedlings are a little bit more resistant against mealybug, you know. Yeah, someone mentioning a pesticide. Look, it really changes. They've been getting rid of more and more pesticides because of the problem with pesticides being bad for the insects, for the beneficial insects, and that's really just something that that I agree with. You know, we see what has been happening with the pollinators everywhere, so it's important to use different kind of pesticides, but none of them are a full replacement, at least the way I see it. Even if you use something like spinosad, like that kind of stuff, it's still very toxic to a lot of insect life. You know, there's no perfect solution for that, and I've become more aware about that, and it's been bad. You know, because it's easier to just spray the whole collection with a heavy pesticide. But yeah, I always think about what it does to everything that's living there. In every one of my pots, there are little spiders, little, you know, all that life, and all the birds that are around eat these insects. And yeah, I try to minimize the negative influence that I have on my ecosystem here. But yeah, I mean, there are some pesticides that solve that problem very fast, you know, but more and more have become unavailable by now to the hobby gardener. They're still around, but there's a good reason for that. There's no perfect solution when you're trying to grow organically. People who grow organically, getting rid of mealybug is a huge thing. And I mean, I've tried growing organically for a very long time, and now I do a little bit of both, but also very difficult to always compensate for, like, just with a fertilizer, for example, to have a fertilizer that has everything, including micronutrients that plants sometimes need to be super healthy and thriving. Yeah. So I had a few organic fertilizers. None were good enough. None felt like they were able to really fully patch the hole that you have when you are using a chemical fertilizer, you know. So yeah, what I spray, like last time I sprayed neem oil. I sprayed neem oil with a combination of a wetting agent, an agent to get it into the pest, but it's not really something that is safe, because the higher the percentage, the higher the concentration of the neem oil, the higher the risk for side effects. So you know, it's that, like I said, there's no perfect organic kind of pesticide or pesticide that is a little bit milder, you know, because you just, it needs to be strong enough to solve the problem. And very often you need to apply it more often with something like neem, and by just having to do that, you give the pests a little window to get in another generation of mealybugs or whatever. And that's kind of hard. It's easier to avoid getting the whole collection infected. So today I'm going against it pretty hard, moving plants out that have mealybug, you know. But the bigger the collection, the more difficult it becomes to spray them all. So I just read that many people are getting white flowers from that cross, from the TPM Zelly cross. Yeah, I haven't heard that. I've talked with Miss Plant about it, and from what he told me, it's been one of the best crosses that he made. I think, sorry, I believe that mine isn't the only one, but it could be that there are also white flowering plants in there, just because that can always happen. The mother has a white flower, and a white flower, sometimes they are dominant. I would be surprised though if there are many white flowers in that cross that I had, because just the kind of color that I got from that one flower, it was such an amazing kind of flower. It wasn't really just one color. It was a mix. It was a perfect kind of flower that I like, the ones that I knew from other misplant crosses that produced a very wide variety of colored hybrids. So I really expect that there will be more from that cross that have colored flowers. The flower, you need to look it up. It was amazing. Yeah, there are many Australian growers that have lots of good flower colors. The Australian scene has grown a lot of great breeders. I've just seen an Australian friend show one of my crosses today, flowering from 2019. I have shown it on my Facebook profile with photos, and yeah, that is an amazing kind of flower, one of the best that I've ever grown. And these kind of flowering plants are now in Australia too, so the quality will just skyrocket now, because Australians have been very smart about getting the good plants, getting important stuff. I'm sure they will get their catching up with hybrids like pink stripes too. The Australian scene has kind of developed into a different direction, so they have their own amazing kind of quality. It's a kind of quality that isn't Cantora. A lot of the European German breeder scene is Cantora and follow-up hybrids with Cantora. And the Australian scene now goes into directions like Sorensia and other rare species like Taiensis. I've seen the Cactus sisters show these amazing Taiensis hybrids on Instagram and Facebook in the last days. Great quality, that is amazing stuff that will just continue to push the quality up now that the Cantora hybrids are in Australia too, and the ruffled ones and the Telegonoides hybrids that I sent. A lot of good stuff is helping to just get the Australian scene to another level. I'm here to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So many of my friends are Australian breeders, and I love what they do. Great to see that. Yeah, thank you for the compliment with the flower. It's one of the best that I had so far. And I think the mother was Volta Lake crossed with Takoradi. Volta Lake is just an amazing kind of hybrid. I think it's a follow-up hybrid of Orange California, maybe with Rosa California, something like that. I'm not sure what exactly it is right now. I've looked it up, and I know that it had Orange California in it, I believe. And Volta Lake is a consistently good parent, and I have it in a lot of my crosses too. So I'm looking forward to seeing more from that cross. And like I said, it was 2019, so 5 to 6 years to flower, and that's a great time for it to flower too. Hey Maria, welcome to the stream. I appreciate you being here. Oh, Cactulicious. Someone mentioned Cactulicious, and I'm a big fan of his crosses. They are all great what he does. I used to buy crosses every year. This year it's gotten financially harder because so many book printers are doing poorly. It's a difficult time and I used to make a lot of part of my living with books. So this year it's a little bit bleak. Because otherwise I would have ordered again. But I fully recommend the quality of his crosses, and I'm sure he will put up great stuff all the time. Yeah, I hope his shop becomes more visible long term, because that's the kind of quality. It's the secret tips, like the little the secret tip that a lot of people keep for themselves and get the stuff there, including myself. It's a great source for seeds. Recommended. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't get my plants to flower before I had the greenhouses, so that is my recommendation. A lot of people know that I use small pots, and small pots definitely play a part in that too, because the plants will put a lot of energy into growing flowers instead of growing roots, or instead of growing body size. But the actual thing that helped push my plants to flower was the greenhouse. So a greenhouse helped me a lot. Without the greenhouse, I wouldn't be here today being able to speak about my life as a cactus breeder, as a successful cactus breeder. I wouldn't be able to do that if it hadn't been for getting a greenhouse. And even if it's just a cheap one, a cheap greenhouse is better for you than um, than a than none, because the greenhouse allows you to move the plants out earlier in spring. It allows you to move the plants out in March already, so that gives you a little bit extra season in spring. Already in March, April, sometimes, there used to be a time when April had hard frost. So the greenhouse allows you to bring the plants out 2 months earlier, and then it again prolongs the season at the end of the season, where the plants are still growing. Around September, even October, we currently have high temperatures in the greenhouse because outside it was sunny, and that gives you a lot of extra time for plants to just get ready for flowering. And yeah, that that is something that I recommend. And if you can't afford it, get a used one. Sometimes you get used greenhouses for very cheap, just by older people who can no longer continue to breed, because they used to be able to care for that huge collection. And at some point, when you're getting older, it just becomes a nuisance, a lot of work that you can no longer do because the body doesn't really always stay the way you want it to, and then a lot of older people sell their greenhouses for very cheap, just to people who take them apart, who drive there and take them apart so they don't have to do it. So check out the classifieds ad, Yellow Pages, what Craigslist used to be, if it's still around, Craigslist, or something like Marketplace. That stuff there, you can often find greenhouses for cheap, but they go within an hour or within 20 minutes sometimes. You need to look every 20 minutes, 10 minutes for the new stuff that has been added. And then when you are lucky, you see something that is nearby where you can drive and take the greenhouse apart, and they are happy that they're getting rid of it, and you have a great greenhouse. That is something that I always wanted to do, but you need to pick it up to, you need to be able to drive there and take it apart. If you can't do that and drive a few 100 kilometers, then you can't do it. That is something you have to be able to. And yeah, greenhouse, but it's a huge step upwards, has been for me. So yeah, let's continue with a few more seedlings that we're checking. I brought them here so I don't have to go away all the time. I also got the wood oven burning now. I'm very happy. It took me a while today. I don't know why. But yeah, fire's burning. I would throw a piece of wood onto the oven in a few minutes, but yeah, things have been brought into motion finally. It's getting warm in here. So yeah, one seedling. I don't like this. There's only one seedling in here, and I might move it back to the oven just to see if we can get a few more seedlings out of this. One seedling is not enough for me. So yeah, in here, 4, 5, 6, 7 seedlings from this cross. It looks okay. One seedling is a little bit further along than the others, and that happens a lot. Sometimes you have one seedling that is double the size than the others, and I really recommend propagating that one because it's the strongest. You know, it might really have positive, like positive abilities that the other seedlings from that cross do not have to that degree. So that can be great. So over here, there's fungus gnats in the bag, and that's a huge problem. I see seedlings that are already not looking so good. Fungus gnats in a closed bag is just a bad thing. You cannot get rid of it at this stage because the seedlings are tiny, and you just can't get rid of it because at this point you would have to transplant, and the seedlings are still in the process of coming out of the seed corn. Transplanting them now would probably lose you half of them. So I might have to just keep them in the closed bag and hope for the best. But that's pretty bad. Fungus gnats aren't great, so sometimes it's best to at least pasteurize the soil. But yeah, normally if you get the soil right out of the bag, fungus gnats aren't getting to it. But every now and then you get a bag of seed, a bag of soil that is already contaminated. Mystery mix didn't. Yeah, someone wrote about Misplant's mystery mix. I mean, I've sown out some of them, and they had a good germination rate. Eventually, I lost them, I think, because of my own lack of space. I guess what was the main reason that I lost them. Also because I had so many genetics where I knew what it was, you know, and these were kind of unnamed. Today, I would love to be able to focus on them again. You know, I wish I had treated that kind of seed bag differently when I raised it. It had interesting seedlings in it, you know, totally different kind of seedlings, a lot of PC kind of crosses, but also everything, you know. It really had a variety of species that were in the bag. I think I saw Scopolicola and Brigesi. It was a wide variety, but also like the classic kind of hybrids. I don't know if it was Spachian or something like that, you know. There were really different ones, and I'm sure some of them are great. I'm sure some of them weren't so, you know, how it always is with mixed batches. And it might also be that the viability of these change from batch to batch. That might also be the case. That's often the, you know, when you have seeds that you just have lying around and you throw them in one big bag, some of them have a better viability than others. So yeah, I'm sure you can have mixed experiences with that, you know. What soils work and which ones don't? I believe a good cactus breeder can work with every soil. I mean, as long as the pH level is right. If the pH level is wrong, that is something that you need to make sure that the pH level isn't something that is completely out of the range for life. Sometimes a lot of breeders buy like mineral media to grow, like pumice, for example, and not all pumice is equal. Some kinds of pumice, they have a completely wrong pH level, and that leads to, you will lose the seedlings long term. They will turn yellow. They will just not thrive. So make sure that the pH level is right, no matter what soil you get. But a good breeder, they get a soil and make it work because they know how to adjust the watering. Or if that isn't working, you know, like if you really have a soil that is so organic, like pieces of wood kind of organic, like what I have here with what we're sowing out with, that is similar, then you can add some minerals to the mix to improve the drainage, add something like pumice, add something like expanded crushed clay, or add something like perlite, add something like coconut fiber to make it work. And you know, we all live at different places, and some people, they live in a place that gets very little rain. They get a lot of heat, so when they work with a more organic soil, that works a lot better than when you try to replicate, when that guy recommends a soil and you try to replicate that at a totally different part of the world, like where I live. If I would put that soil out, I mean, and it's constantly raining and raining and raining, then you will lose plants just from the combination of organic soil and rain. So always pick the soil that supports your climate, you know. I don't know the brands internationally. I just know that I could probably work with most of the stuff that I get. If it's coconut fiber, if it's pumice, if it's a cactus soil from the supermarket. But a lot of people take that and filter out the large pieces of wood, everything that is too problematic, you know. Maybe get a cheap cactus soil and try to improve it by adding a few ingredients here and there. And in my opinion, pumice will always improve a soil if you put it in, because it can store water, and without that it becomes a risk to rot the root. That is something that is unique to certain minerals, you know. They can store water, like these volcanic minerals. They can store water, and it is available to the seedling, but it isn't available in a way that it makes it rot, and that makes a big difference. So yeah, pumice is a great thing to just throw into the mix if it doesn't work, you know. Work best peat, and yeah, I mean, what we're using here is basically peat, you know, and with a few added things just to keep it from being overgrown so easily by weeds. But it always depends on how much rain you get and how cold it gets. These kinds of things can be deal breakers in one country, and it can be completely all right with a fully organic soil in another, you know, especially when you live in a country that gets insanely hot summers, you know, and then suddenly you have them in a mineral medium, and it's so fast raining that they can take in the water. That is a thing where you really have to look at every climate under the lens, and then put your soil together, make it work, build it after the environment. So yeah, just try one soil, experiment with it. If you feel like it isn't working, then you can either improve it or get another brand. There's so many these days. It's also a question of money, you know. This year, like I said, there's a crisis among book printers this year, and I've had like problem buying as much soil as I had. So I was buying soil every other week or so, you know. Just every time I earned a little, I bought more soil. And in such a situation, you are more open to experimenting with cheaper soil. And cheap soil doesn't have to be bad soil. It really depends on every kind of quality. Sometimes you get cactus, you get plant soil that is even contaminated, that is unable to be used, you know. And sometimes you get a cheap soil, just you get a good price on it, and you are lucky. My recommendation is just try it out, and if something doesn't work, add pumice or add something like expanded broken clay, perlite. I mean, and I'm not a fan of perlite because it gets so easily into the environment. It flies away, and you have it all over the garden. So I personally don't use that, but it would also be a way to improve the soil, even with lava, you know. Yeah. Hey, mate, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I mean, if you can stay long, I appreciate you just joining in, you know, just saying hello. That is already great. We're just having our daily chat among friends right now. And yeah, I mean, I'm doing it daily. We'll be back tomorrow. And yeah, just fun. I just enjoy doing that. So it's getting cold in here. I want to put a piece of wood onto the oven. I'm back in 20 seconds. Just give me a second to put some wood on the oven. So let me see here. Okay. Firing up the oven a little bit, because it's so cold here at night that it cools down the place. But yeah, so let's see what's the question. Another mistake, I think. Let's see. 1020 trays. What's a 1020 tray? 10x20 or what? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the bigger the tray that you use, the bigger the container that you are sowing out in, the longer it takes it to dry. That is one. You know, you imagine you have a bunch of seedlings in a huge pot, and it takes maybe a week for the pot to dry, you know? And that can be good when it's super hot, but the moment the conditions are bad, the moment it's cold and rainy, it will take too long to dry again. And hey Dave, good morning. Yeah, it will take a while to dry again, and that becomes a problem later on, you know. The bigger, and it's also true for larger plants, the bigger the pot you have, the longer it takes to dry. And when I lose plants, it's often in pots that have been too big for them, because they will take forever to fill out the pot, and that also allows a lot of room for weeds to cover the area, that just wouldn't have if the pot were a little bit smaller. I know a lot of breeders that grow, that just want to get as many like plant matter as possible. They use these huge pots, and that can work like if you have a big plant, you know. But for the medium-sized plants, everything that is a little bit smaller, that is a little bit closer to the ground also, smaller pots can be safer. They just dry so fast. There's not so much risk that overnight, after watering, the soil gets so dry, gets so cold and wet that it damages the root, you know. So I'm a big believer that you do not have to have huge pots to succeed. But of course, if you have a huge plant, at some point it needs to be in a bigger pot, you know, like potting up is something that you cannot avoid at some point. And this year I've repotted as much as I never did before, just to improve the general health of a plant. Being able to, like, because if you can grow plants in tiny pots, but you cannot make sure that they are healthy all the time unless you grow them like hydro and water them all the time, fertilize them all the time, because the nutrients they can store, it's only for a matter of weeks maybe. So you need to always provide those nutrients during the main season, and if you don't, it will instantly damage their general health. They will become like spotty. They will have skin blemishes, problems, fungal infections, that stuff, you know. So repotting at some point, potting up, it's nothing we can avoid, but there's a limit, you know. I try to get a plant to flower in a small pot. I try to push them hard early on to get them to flower, to see the flower, to know if I want to keep it or not. If I know that something is great, then I will give it the biggest pot size that I can give it. That makes sense, you know. But if it's a plant that might have a terrible flower, then I'm a little bit hesitant to just put it in a huge pot right away, you know, because especially because that could mean it will go into root growth mode, where a plant prioritizes root growth, because root growth is very important in nature. It's their connection, their lifeline, you know. So when they are in a big pot, a plant will instantly put energy into growing roots, and it will go at the cost of flowers. It will go at the cost of other growth towards the like actual plant growth that you see outside, you know. So yeah, that's also why you pot up slowly, to avoid that, to not give that plant a feeling. So now you can grow endless roots, because they would do it, you know, in a certain because it is important for a plant to grow roots. At what point after germination do you open your Ziploc bags? You can start doing it at some point when you get problems. That is that is the point when I open them. You know, ideally I would keep them closed for 6 months maybe. But that is the theory, and in practice you sometimes run into problems where you need to open them up. And that is, for example, when you have a fungal infection that you cannot control anymore. When you have a fungal infection that is limited to one seedling, you can remove that seedling and it's gone. And very often that is it. So when you have a container where there's a problem with the seeds in general, you know, because sometimes the seeds aren't cleaned enough, haven't been cleaned enough, and in such a case, you can get fungal infection after fungal infection in one container. Or when it's a difficult genetic cross, like where the seedling is unhealthy because the parents were so distant that it's just not healthy offspring, then you lose seedling after seedling. And when that happens, you need to open it up. You need to look at it. You try to remove any problem that you run into, and the moment you cannot remove it anymore, you need to open it up. And when that happens, you instantly need to provide the humidity and water that they would get in a closed bag. And that is hard because you need to spray them daily then. So far, we haven't had that happen, but it will happen. I can tell you that. Because with so many different seedlings that we're growing over the year, we will just get into that situation where we can no longer avoid taking them out too early. Ideally, I wouldn't do it in the first 3 months. Ideally, waiting till 6 months. Some people wait even longer, but 6 months is the point where you take them out and they're really, or they can take the sudden shift. And when I say sudden, you still want to slowly adjust them to the new environment where they are. But when you have a fungal infection in a closed bag, you cannot do it. You cannot say, okay, I'm just slowly adjusting them, because if you keep the humidity up, the fungal infection will continue. If you want to save a few seedlings in these cases where it's out of control, open it up right away. Another question: do you think leaving the pups to grow with the mother plant is better or not for flowering, growing in general? That's a good question, honestly, because we've discussed that in excess. And my opinion is this: there are plants where additional pups, species where additional pups kind of add to the general health because they provide additional mass. That is the case, for example, with a large Trichoceros, a Peruvian species, for example. You know, these classic species that do not pop so often. They pop once or twice from the base, but that is it in the beginning, in the first years, or in the first 2 meters. You know, they rarely pop with 10 pups from the base. But if they would do that, it would, the side arms would be growing and growing, and the main plant would kind of not have all the energy it could have to put into flowering. So you need to look at what kind of a plant you have there. If you have a clumping Echinopsis, for example, like these classic Echinopsis that pop and pop and pop, I try to remove the pups as often as I can, because I know that just growing the pups costs energy. It costs the plant to produce a lot, to add a lot of additional energy into the side pups. And I believe if you want to see the flower fast, it saves you some time to remove in these kinds of plants all the million pups that come up. There are also species that pop a lot, like candicans. You know, some forms of candicans pop a lot. And in these cases, it can really help to remove them if you want to have flowers on that main growth that you have, on that main plant. But long term, I mean, sometimes people just let them grow because they don't care if a plant produces 1 or 4 flowers a year, because they know the flower and they know that plant and they just let it grow. And I mean, these plants are often flowering too. So I guess it always depends on what you have. You know, if you have a plant of the size of like this and you have side pops, the side pops will also take energy away. And if flowering is the main priority, removing the side pops and rooting those separately and just push the main pop, the main plant hard, can be the better way to get the flowers faster. Yeah, but it depends on the plant. Like a large columnar plant, I don't really bother to remove the pups in that kind of case, you know, especially since these plants grow to like house size in nature, you know. In that case, they don't put out so many pups, you know. They don't cover wide areas on the ground like other species do. Always look at the kind of plant that you want to see the flower of. Hey Andrea, good morning. Yeah, I mean the mother plant, if you want to grow the mother plant just alone, the mother plants, I would probably remove the side pops in most cases, because it gives the plant will put the main energy into what's left, you know. Removing the pups will even encourage the plant to pop more. So I mean, it's a matter of personal opinion, you know, because just by removing them, the plant will also start popping again, and that will also cost energy. If it's just 1 or 2 pops, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. It's not that big of a difference. But if you have a plant that has 5, 6 little pups and they aren't even growing, you know, then take them off, because in that case, the pups aren't going anywhere, and you have a main plant that could use the energy, but all the energy goes into producing more pups that are hardly changing the overall situation with flowering, because a tiny pup will not flower. A plant can maybe in rare cases flower from such a tiny pup, but in most cases the side arms, the side pups need to reach a certain size to flower too. And yeah, so that is my recommendation for removing pups or not, you know. There are no firm rules. Look at the kind of popping that you have. If you have a productive popping that produces also grows, you could do it. But if you have a pop on the other side of, let's say, columnar species, it's already a little bit separate. You know, they often develop their own root system. They often live up by themselves. You can tell that because sometimes you have an infection, a fungal infection that goes down and it ends at a pup. It means that just a pup piece, a second pup on the same plant, can already produce its own kind of survival mechanism and ways to gain additional nutrients. So yeah, you might as well take it off. Yeah, I do that a lot. I did that a lot in the past, where I removed side pops on plants where I wanted the growth to actually go into the main plant and into the flowering. I did that a lot in the past. Right now, I'm at a point where I'm already getting too much plant growth within the season. You know, my greenhouses are full. Like, and when I say full, they are so full I can barely walk in. So I am not trying to get the plant to grow as fast as possible anymore. I'm just trying to keep it under control, and I often remove the tip. I often remove side pups too, just so I can, I don't know, can keep the growth under control. But I'm not walking around anymore, you know, doing that and making sure, okay, I see, yeah, maybe 2 pups that I could take off. I did that a lot in the past, and I think it helped, you know, but you need to try it out with the kind of cactus that you have. Every species is a little bit different, and some appreciate having a little bit more like just general biomass available to them. But in my opinion, if you push the main plant, it can grow faster than the side pups can grow. So I would often prefer having the main plant, which is often big enough to flower already and get all the energy, get all the energy into that thing. So yeah. But it can sometimes happen that you have a small plant with flower buds on it, especially in Australia, or the great countries that have the great climate where they really do well and thrive. Everything can happen in when you're growing plants. Nothing. uh, I've seen so many different things where I thought that wouldn't be possible, so never say never. But it's rarer that you have these flower buds from little side pups and all that. Yeah, no worry, Andrea. Make sure that the fish are happy and all that. I love them. Great animals and all that. I'm currently doing my video, and then I'll get back to my critters. Yeah, I know how that is when you have a zoo to take care of. Yeah, scopes are great. Scopolycola is a great species. But in the last years, I've moved a little bit away from it because it's so dominant in crosses. Every cross that you make with Scopolycola, it's instantly a Scopolycola cross. It's like when you're baking something with a banana in it. It's instantly a banana like meal, like banana bread. Everything where you put a little tiny piece of banana in, it overtakes the whole meal. And this way Scopolycola is kind of in crosses. I don't know, it's a very dominant species in regards to the body, and very often you just have that classic Scopolycola body. And I try to have a little bit variety, different species that people don't breed with so often. I have a lot of hybrids like Tersheki and Validus, because I like that body, and I try to get color into these, because Scopolycola, I mean, what Miss Plant did with Scopolycola, I mean, there will never be no development with Scopolycola. The quality will rise also with Scopolycola. But I feel like Miss Plant already did a lot with that Scopolycola, with all those hybrids, with these Sally hybrids and all, So I feel like going into a different direction, creating my own kind of version of a Sally hybrid, whatever that may be. This year I've seen the first hybrids that I did, like with the multi-hybrid, and it has such a unique kind of body where I felt like it could be like something like that, a version of a hybrid that is my own, where I made my own kind of thing. Trying to like use all these plants that I have now and kind of combine them in my very own way, creating my own influence on the breeding hobby, because I'm not sure how long I will continue breeding. I mean, I've lived a hard life, to be honest. I'm not seeing myself being here in 20 years. I'm happy when I'm here in 5 years, okay? And I try to put my influence on the community, on my crosses that I do now. And I hope that it will be enough by the time that I stop being a breeder. I already wanted to retire like completely last year, and we never know how long I will do every year. I'm doing it like Larry David with his TV show. Every year I say it could be the last, and when I'm doing another year, then I'm doing it for the channel right now, making sure that I leave something behind, that I leave all these, seeing all these cacti that will be used in different countries in the next 50 years from now. It gives me a feeling that I left an impression in life, in not only in people's lives, but also in regards to something that I leave behind where people can enjoy it in 10 years, in 50 years from now, when I'm no longer here. I'm not here in 50 years. That is unreasonable. So I try to do it now in a way I do it fast. I made so many crosses within short time, and I sent countless. That's why I always gifted so many seeds in every order that I got. Every order got a huge amount of free seeds, just so I can put my stamp on what I do now, because I'm not sure how long I will be here. So yeah. Yeah, about the Amun-Re fruit. Yeah, that mouse had a great meal, in the greenhouse. And yesterday it was so sunny that I watered and fertilized a little bit because I had missed that time a couple of months ago. And when I watered the plant shelf, a mouse was jumping down from it. That it had slept there on between the seedlings, because the greenhouse is a great place for a mouse in summer. In when the sun shines on the greenhouse, it's still warm, and so yeah, it ate that Amun-Re fruit. I still have a few seeds left, maybe 10, 20, I'm not sure. We will clean it on the channel in the stream in the next days. I decided I want to start cleaning seeds now. On air too, like when we're doing the live stream. So there's progress with the seeds, I just don't have the time to wait forever. So yeah, I wish I had more seeds from that Amun-Re cross, man. That was painful, but I have another one that took, and the fruit was very big, so there will still be Amun-Re seeds this year, and I'll try to spread some around when I get to it, I'm not sure when. Because right now I'm not having a bathroom window. I'm currently trying to fix my bathroom window, and it's proven to be very difficult. But yeah, I'll get back to the seed stuff in the next days or in the next couple of weeks. So yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a loss, of course, but I mean, the way I see it, my videos will be here forever. My streams will be here, and I mean forever is a big word. I mean, I try to have them available at some point. If YouTube at some point will go away, then my videos will be gone too. But I will leave something behind no matter what. If I would go today, there would be. I looked at the channel, and there's 3,000 videos or something like that. I mean, maybe not all of them are public. Because I always had some where I felt like, yeah, that had a bad sound, or where I had a video where I was like having, like, I don't know, where my pants were down all the time while I was working on the roof, stuff like that, where I couldn't post a video. But there are thousands of videos already, and I just hope that by the time I say, okay, this is it, I've had enough, then there will be so much stuff out there that people just will always be able to go back if they missed the stuff that I did and watch it again, or the time-lapse videos. I'm making a point of the reason I'm still here doing that is just to leave something behind. It's just to I don't know, I enjoy this hobby. I try to give something to the hobby too. I hope I can do that. I hope I can repay all the love that I got over my years to the community, and that's why I'm still around. That's why why I still want to give away seeds again, which I had never thought I would do again because I was so burnt out. But I'm at a point where I want to get back to it, and yeah. So I have a debt to pay still. That is how I see it. The plant community, the cactus community, saved my life when I was at the lowest, and I always will remember that. I always feel I have a debt to pay, so I'm still here. But at some point, the conditions should become easier now for me on the channel, for me to do the work, for me to pay the heating every year. So it's also the reason why I'm pushing hard right now. I'm posting videos to go viral. I'm posting shorts. I'm posting on Facebook. I'm posting on Instagram. I'm streaming. I'm trying to push this channel into a mainstream audience, because I know it's the only way I can make this thing a way that we have some quality filming, a little bit of quality, just to care for the plants, to build a better greenhouse. And I might be able to see myself continuing with the breeding a few more years, maybe even 5 to 10 years, if the conditions become better for me as a person, but because in the past I've always had to struggle. I did low budget, and when I say low budget, I really mean low budget. The fact that I'm working with small pots is because I always had to learn how to make it work with small pots. I had to learn how to water more often, to make up for that, to give them the right fertilizer, because I was doing low budget. And at some point I have the hope, and I believe that when we are doing good work here, and I believe we do, we will be able to make this thing to a point where life will become easier for me, where it will become fun to film, where we have the resources to buy all the soil we need, and have a little bit more space, and when I can guarantee that, then it will be a different kind of breeding when you're always grinding. And there were years when I couldn't heat the house, so heating the greenhouse was something that was a luxurious thing for me. So when you're always grinding and you have to keep the plants healthy, you cannot do that. You need to be able to focus. You need to approach it like it's a job. And if I can make that happen, then I will. But the way it is now, I'm not seeing that doing it long term. I consider moving abroad too, but I'm currently still in a process of. I love this place too, where I live. I love that my grandfather built this place. My grandfather was very poor, and he grew that house from scraps, from stuff that they took from the rubble piles that was Germany directly after the war, where everything was in ashes, and my grandfather built this house from nothing, from being poor. From my grandfather he first worked in a company that built refrigerators, and when they laid him off, he was a music teacher. He was selling honey. They were selling mushrooms, like these portobello mushrooms that they grew in the cellar. They lived from what they had, from what their garden gave them, and that is a special place for me. So if I'm forced to sell it, if at some point I'm selling my house, then it will hurt me immensely. So when I talk about moving abroad, I'm doing it with a laughing and with a crying eye. Like moving to a warmer country like Italy, like Spain. I would love to do that. But I also would feel like I let my grandfather down. I would feel I let my parents down, who believed in me, making it work here. So I'm just trying to be I'm trying hard to be that kind of thing that catches your attention with quality work. And I know not everything that I do on the channel is like perfect textbook work. I'm not a learned gardener. I had to improvise a lot and make it work. When I built my greenhouses, everything is crooked here. We built them in slopes where we're surrounded by jungle. So it's not that we have a perfect kind of gardening channel, and that is not my approach. My approach is to just be an authentic character on air and off air, no matter what. I'm not an influencer. I don't want to be. It would probably make things easier if I would just be an influencer. I would say, hey guys, I have this trashy product that that I can't really recommend, but here it is. Click on the affiliate stuff. It would make life so much easier to be like that. But I try to make it work by just being myself, and with the work that we do on the channel, it might not work eventually. We'll see how it goes, but I believe in us. I believe in the channel. I believe in that. I've never seen such a progress. I've never had such a just opportunity in life to build something with my own hands. So yeah, I hope that we can do it. So yeah, I mean, just as long as I'm happy, I don't recall a time when I was truly, truly happy. And I say that knowing that it is bad, but I mean, 2023, I lost Snoopy. We lost Snoopy. Then last year, I had my wife moved out, and right now I have sick parents, and sick parents who also deal with money issues, all that stuff that kind of weighs on you. I don't recall a time when I was really truly happy, but I have these moments when I'm happy. I have a happy moment when I'm online and I see a plant that I created in 2019, and when I see a plant that I created, I don't know, in 2017, or when I see how many people write in my chat, how many people write below my videos, how many people share my stuff, and what it means to them. What it means to them that I'm still here. Just a few days ago, I lost a good friend, and that has reminded me, how fast it can go, and I just appreciate that people that everyone who is here, because I already lost people who helped bring me here to this point, and I know what it means, when people who so many people who watch my stuff or who support me, they don't come from a great place themselves. They have trouble in their own lives, and it means so much to me then seeing that it gives them something. I mean, it's just some of the stuff that I do is flower videos, but in the last years I'm going out of my way to provide depth, emotional depth, also in this channel, to show who is behind the channel that is producing these flower videos. I try to be known as not a flower guy, but someone in the future I have seriously considered doing stuff like animal protection on the channel too. Like I love animals, and I've started supporting animal organizations, and I might involve that every now and then to just giving them a platform. I might, I want to use the channel also for this day-to-day life, showing what we do and who I am, who I've become. I mean, if I had done this like what I'm doing now just 5 years ago, it would have been a disaster, because I wouldn't have the mental maturity to stand here in front of a bigger audience and be someone that earns respect. A lot of people, they act like you owe them respect. I feel like in a lot of things that I did, people who got to know me, they learned to respect me because they saw that I'm not a spoiled dude who just who does very little work and just films a flower here and there. I've always been doing community work, doing stuff out there that nobody saw. Just now, in the last years, people get to know me a little bit more and see what I did since 20 years, maybe. We've been doing giveaways on forums 20 years ago, and it's crazy that it's been so long. And yeah, now I'm mature enough to know that I can bring that to the table too, that this is a plus on the channel, that when I talk about this or talk about personal stuff, that is good for the channel, that because people see me with different eyes, you know. So I try to do that. And I, of course, I try not to forget the plant stuff. I know a lot of people are mostly here because they like the flowers and because they like this and that. But my idea, my idea of this channel, I want to do a gardening or a cactus show, the way Anthony Bourdain did a cooking show, the way Anthony Bourdain showed other aspects of life too. I was a big fan of his work and what he did. He was a good one, you know, and his approach to like the way he filmed his shows. That is something that I would like to have in my channel, in my cactus show, you know, just me also having conversations with people, because we learn so much from just talking with each other. We learn so much about a person when we talk to them, you know. And so many people who create videos, they are terrible people behind the camera, but there are so many good ones that I would love to just have a conversation with on the channel too. So that is my idea long term, and I hope I can make it work, you know. You know, and Andrea wrote something about AI. I mean, I don't want to rant about AI every time, so take this with a grain of salt. But yesterday I posted on Facebook, and I posted that I find it sad that so many former plant pages and gardening pages are now posting exclusively posting AI content. I've seen a huge page, they have millions of followers, and they just post AI, no? Just AI flowers. And I wrote that, in my opinion, like something like gardening and AI, they are things that are mutually exclusive, because so much of the joy from gardening and plants comes from growing them. I haven't had a moment when I looked at an AI flower or an AI plant and felt like that could give me something for my own breeding, you know, because it's still a plant that never existed, you know. You cannot say, okay, I will sow this plant out in the next year. And yeah, it is something that that I feel AI is more like a marketing thing for them, like a money making thing. These pages post AI now because it earns them money, because they can monetize the gardening content, but they don't love the hobby. They don't love gardening, and that's a distinction, you know. Gardening is something, if you look at a fake flower, fake plant, it gives you nothing. But you can use it to plan, you can use it to plan a garden bed, you know. But you will never be able to look at an AI flower and say, okay, I will grow this plant next year, you know. And that's why I lose respect of a page that only posts AI now. So I just saw a comment by Andrea, I think, like with the fibromyalgia. I'm not sure how it's spelled in English, but I know that term. I've had some kind of autoimmune disease too, you know, so I know how it is. So yeah, I feel sorry for that. Took me 15 years going from doctor to doctor, 10, 15 years to get a diagnosis. And yeah, today I have problem walking with my left leg. I'm limping with my left leg. I had to learn to talk again, you know, after a very bad case, like where I got Lyme disease, and the Lyme disease gave me an episode of the autoimmune disease, you know. So I had to really learn to talk a little bit again, and I know how that is. It's a major problem, but you can still do some aspects. Of course, if you're in a wheelchair, you can't do it. So you look. I'm sure you probably watch a lot of videos then, but you can still compensate. Sometimes it allows me to do it, but I need to be able to take breaks in between. You know, I often do an hour of work in the morning, and maybe an hour of work in during the day, and then I need to take a break again because the muscle stuff is becoming too much of a problem. But yeah, I know very well how that life is, and I know very well how hard it is. I know how hard it is when you are looking for a diagnosis, because a lot of these autoimmune diseases are so hard to diagnose that you go to the general practitioner and they tell you, have you considered that you're just making it up? Like when they are not sure what it is because it doesn't fall into the classic common categories. So it's a rough life, and I know how that is, and I feel sorry for it. It's a tough life. I met so many people who share these kinds of problems. So yeah, I hope you get it under control. Living stress-free really helps, and that is why I've been pushing a lot for me to get to a point where I have less stress, because I know that it's just a matter of time when you get another episode, when you have these autoimmune diseases, So yeah, I know how that is. Like I said, this is the type of stuff that I used to not talk about, but I believe it also helps other people seeing that it can be common, and sometimes you can still make it work. Not always. I mean, not every case is different, but you can sometimes giving yourself breaks, making sure you are mentally at a point where you can where you when you are sleeping, when you go to bed at night, you are not awake having all that sorrow and having all that kind of guilt, and I don't know, making sure you are in balance with yourself helps a lot. Trying to live healthy, I would love to do it, but every year it's a struggle. You sometimes you don't choose, you can't pick it. It just happens. Life, you have plans, and then life comes in between. It just happens. But ideally, live stress-free. That's my recommendation. So yeah, I'm happy you're doing well, Andrea. Very happy. I don't know, and I feel it becomes more common today. Back in the days, a lot of these diseases weren't recognized. They weren't identified. People were having them, and it was just said that they had, some kind of, I don't know, they said they had a stroke, or maybe they aren't feeling well, they have depression, all those diseases that we can today identify that they didn't know about just 100 years ago. Healthy living goes a long way. Trying to avoid all kinds of, I try to avoid pesticides since I got ill. I mean, it might not make a difference, so but a lot of food also comes with a lot of pesticides. So, and I assume that's not really helpful. So trying to live organic, and I know it's more expensive. I have the same problems to buy it, but I try to avoid that kind of like unhealthy way of living. So yeah, let's check a few more containers, and yeah, if you have more questions, write them in the chat, and if not, I'll be back tomorrow doing another thing. And again, in the future, we will clean the seeds. I have a lot of seeds that I just laid out on paper to dry, and we will start bagging them in the next weeks. I want to do that soon, and yeah, it will be great for us to do it on the channel. So yeah, let me get a few more seedlings here and there. Okay. Okay. So these are the last that we're checking, and the rest we're checking tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, being positive in life, I believe it's part of how I get here also. It's just important that when times are tough, you stay focused and look forward. Try to work on getting out of try to find a solution. Try to make things easier. I believe in life. We sometimes are in situations when we need to stay positive, because otherwise we will lose hope. And when we lose hope, things will become so much more difficult. A lot of the stuff that we worry in life doesn't happen. That's a good thing. We often worry and something completely different happens. And then again, something happens that we didn't see coming. So I really believe trying to be positive and staying focused on improving life in whatever way you can goes a long way. Whatever holds you back and really holds you back. I mean, sometimes we have these things where we feel it's actually, it holds us back, but when we no longer have them, we think differently. But if there's stuff that's really bad in your life, try to get rid of these negative influences, and remain positive, because you need to be in your own corner. You need to believe in yourself, because nobody else will do it if you do not do it. If you do not believe in yourself, nobody will stand up for you. That is, I mean, what I believe here. Why I've always tried to do new stuff. Try to experiment with new stuff, because if you do not believe you can succeed, when you not believe you can make it happen, then the others will pick up on that, and then they will recognize it instantly. So you need to really believe that you can get out of that hole every time you are in it. And I've been in many deep holes in my life, and emotionally and physically. You just have to never give up, because the fact that I'm here today as a respected breeder, I mean, my life isn't perfect today, but I have reached so much more, and with limited abilities. Like, I've been disadvantaged in life. I had a lot of like debt from the previous generations that I had to pay back, like just to get to keep the house, repay the old debt. And if I had given up at that time, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, the debt of the house is almost paid now. So you make it through sometimes, even the darkest times. You just have to not give up, because giving up, I mean, it's not an option. There's always sometimes when things aren't going great, you are just lucky. Something lucky happens in your life. That can happen too, Never forget that bad stuff happens sometimes, but the good stuff happens from time to time too. So don't lose hope, okay? So yeah, let's check a few more seedlings, and I'm very happy about how these are looking. I mean, these are looking great under the lamp, healthy green kind of color. Yeah, look, the only the only way we fall is if we quit. Yes, I mean, of course, but you also need to, you always need to see things critically, like, are you still on the right path? Always asking yourself if what you're doing, if something isn't working, sticking to it doesn't help either. Like, if you realize things aren't going great and you have to change something, then change something, but sometimes if we fail, it also means something wasn't right in the formula that we tried. If we change the little things here and there, we could succeed. It doesn't mean we won't succeed the next time. It just means that the way we tried it wouldn't work. Sometimes you also need to look at what didn't work and try to learn from that and change that. Being quick on, I once read that in nature, like in evolution, in evolutionary terms, it is a big positive for any living thing to be versatile, to be able to react to all kinds of different conditions that you are going through, being able to see a problem and adapt, see that problem, and you realize, like for example, like in with the book printing, yes, it's just one example. A lot of book printers are disappearing. So book printers need to be, they might not be able to completely stop it. There will also be there will always be those kinds of people who love a printed book, and they pay a lot of money for that. But the classic book printing business is disappearing, and a lot of these book printers need to look at the writing at the wall and change what they do. They need to also make sure they have ebooks available, even if they don't like it, even if they kind of love printing books. But for some of them, if they aren't writing these luxury books, that like these special interest books that are printed in tiny editions and have a very special market, if they aren't doing that, if they aren't making their product available in digital form too, they will disappear. So you need to be versatile. You need to see the writing on the wall. You need to be able to kind of predict if a certain problem it will happen again and again and again. So if that happens, change the rules of what you try, change the rules of the game. But it's also, there's nothing wrong with continuously trying, as long as you adapt every time, you are flexible, change little things, it will get you better, because you tried so many different things that wouldn't work, and eventually you will get to that one thing that will pick off. That is what I've seen from a lot of people who created different kind of like books or websites. You don't have to succeed with every one of them. Sometimes it's enough if that one thing that you do really succeeds, really takes off. And sometimes luck also plays a role. So just never stop experimenting, stop testing the rules of the game and trying to change them. Oh yeah. So Maria wrote that she and her husband wrote 2 books on parrots, and on their work with them. And yeah, that is the kind of stuff where I really believe that there will always be a market like that, special interest market, where you do not, where people are really interested in the subject, like the type of books that I do, but the costs are expensive to print. It's difficult to pay for printing. The way we funded our books, it was with crowdfunding. We did 2 campaigns on Indiegogo, and I only stopped doing that because we ran into trouble with the last time, because of the name Trichocereus, because of censorship via the payment processors that did the credit card payments. So yeah, they were pushing out, they were censoring the kind of subject that they would allow books to be printed about, and it was just completely ornamental, scientific kind of books, just descriptions, just plant photos, nothing else. But they still exercise that kind of censorship, and it was the only way we stopped doing books via crowdfunding. I would have done another book maybe 2 years after that, but that was, that was a problem, and the high cost of printing make book printing less accessible today, and you need to often do ebook, Kindle publishing, that kind of stuff, So yeah, Maria, what kind of books did you write? How are they called? Would love to hear more about that. If you find the time, write it down. And if not, I mean, it's possible that it will be filtered out via the spam prevention feature, you know. But I mean, I wrote 3 books by now. I wrote 2 botanical books, like one on on botanical species, having like 20 different Trichocereus species that had the description. And I had another ebook that was a full book that I wanted to print. But at some point I got so sick, like that was one when I had to learn to talk again, that I wanted to put that book out for free, that I said that I will publish it for free for the community. It was my gift, my parting gift to the community, because I thought I might not make it through. So I put that ebook out on my page on trichocereus.net, and that's where my books are. So check them out if you like. Self-publishing was great for me. We did it with, like I said, we did it with crowdfunding, and I could do very well with it. But yeah, the last campaign was difficult because of the credit card company, and a lot of these payment of these crowdfunding services still use the same kind of credit card company, Stripe. They have really been treating us unfairly, because we did nothing wrong. We wrote just basic books about botany. It was botanical books, nothing else, and they censored us completely. And when you're a small publisher like I am, you can't really you can't defend yourself against that, you know. Maybe if the web comes together and criticizes it, but at the time nobody was really talking about it. I was talking about it in a few interviews, but nobody really came to our help. So there weren't any printed books after that. I might get back to it, you know, but I need to pay 10K to pay for printing a book, and I have written more books. I could print them now, but we would have to pay to fund the printing costs, you know. Look into the description of the videos. Every video has the link to the shop, but I will say it again in another video. The link is trichocereus.net. But my smartphone battery will go off now, like within the next minute or two. So I'll write that in the description, you know. But the description of my videos also has the link to my shop, and we ship out. I still ship out books, you know. The first book is almost sold out. We maybe have 50 or so left, 50, 60, 70, something like that. And the second book, we have more. And there's also an ebook to download on the page for free. So yeah, check into the description. And thank you guys for being here. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll do another one of these live streams. I appreciate everyone coming here. I want to establish this as some kind of like just talk among friends, and I discuss the comments and all. We will do seed stuff now. So yeah, I'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you all. You give me back so much. I hope I can repay that. Okay? Thank you guys. Thank you for being here.